It's an effective tool, but it has a great many limitations. I think like so many things, its utility is really being taxed now, mostly by volume. In this era where there are so many questions being raised about what our government is doing and why it's doing it, that means there's really increased interest on the part of good government groups like mine, on the part of journalists, and just the general public to want to know what's going on and to use the FOIA as a vehicle to do that. And so agencies, their volumes of FOIA requests have gone way up, and as a result, there are really, really long lines, or queues as they call them. So its effectiveness at getting you answers now is really limited. Having said that, it's still one of the best tools that we have. I think a significant percentage of journalists do use the FOIA. Certainly when Congress first enacted the FOIA, it had journalists particularly in mind. But what's happening now is more and more nonprofit groups are using the FOIA to try to uncover what the government is doing and why it's doing it. And so that's probably where some of the biggest increase in usage has come from. I know my organization has used the FOIA from the outset, but certainly the number of FOIA requests that we file has gone up pretty dramatically. Yes and no. The federal government knows they're there, but by paying attention, do they comply with them? The answer is almost never. Now, I would, in their defense, I think for most agencies, responding within 20 business days, which is generally what the FOIA requires, may not be very realistic. But I think agencies are content to just let these long backlogs grow and grow and grow. And really, the most effective counter that I've found is we have the ability to sue. And when we get into court, whether this is how it should be or not, it tends to push our requests more towards the top of the queue. It really depends on the exemption and what your assessment is about how well-founded it is. So, for example, if an agency asserts Exemption 1, which is for classified information, the likelihood of winning that is very, very tiny, unless you can show that, in fact, it's not classified, and that's a very difficult thing to show. On the other hand, there are some exemptions. Exemption 5 comes to mind, where they incorporate all the discovery privileges, but the law was changed so that the government is supposed to show that it is, if it releases the information that they say is exempt because it's deliberative process, for example, there will be a foreseeable harm. And that is a very specific standard that they can't always meet. So I definitely think it's worth pushing back there. The other area where we've had some success is on privacy grounds. Agencies like the FBI will reflexively say they can't release any of their investigative files. And when there is a known investigation of a high-level member of Congress or a high-level government official, for example, there really may be grounds to push back on that and say that whatever privacy interests exist, there's an overriding public interest. So, you really have to look at what the exemption is and where you think there might be some give in it.